Good morning, colleagues. Welcome to the second session of the National Virtual Expert Meeting on Space-Based Solutions for Disaster Risk Management and Emergency Response in Nigeria. We're very happy to have you with us. This morning we will have four very interesting presentations, and then we will basically have a discussion session like yesterday. A little bit on the procedures. May I kindly ask you to turn off your cameras, please, so that we can all benefit from the internet bandwidth to see the presentations. I'd be very grateful for that. This morning we will have four presentations, one by the National Meteorological Office of Nigeria, another one by the National Hydrological Services Agency, one by the Center for Space Science and Technology Education, and another one on a project that NEMA, NASRDA, NISA, New Spider will be conducting in the near future together with Airbus. And I would like to welcome all of you to this second session. In the afternoon, we will also have a more technical session where we would like to present you a little bit of the step-by-step procedures that we have developed in US Spider. So having said this, I would like to kindly request if we have Godstime already on board with us. Godstime, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear. Good morning, Godstime.
Thank you very much, Joanne. And once again, I would like to join Joanne to welcome everyone to our session for today. As he had mentioned, the session for today is divided into two components. The first component is a set of presentation that we'll go through right now, and then the second component will focus on the UN Spider recommended practices for exposure mapping, flood mapping, and flood hazard mapping. So I encourage you all to participate in both sessions. So we will move straight away to the first presentation entitled The Role of NIMET in Disaster Risk Management. This will be presented by James Ejampe, a meteorologist with NIMET. James, please, you have the floor. You have 15 minutes maximum for your presentation. Thank you. James, are you able to hear us? Okay, while we wait for James to get his connection right, let us move on to the presentation by NISA, please, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency.
But I don't want to on the video.
Can we have the presentation by NISA, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, please?
Yeah, the presentation, the PowerPoint is coming on. 1 second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good. This is the presentation for NISA, and it's entitled Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency's efforts towards flood mitigation. This will be presented by Dr. Hadiza Aminu Tuko. Dr. Tuko, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hadiza Aminu from Nigeria.
Sorry, we are having echo. Maybe you are connected to several networks in your office.
Okay.
Can you shut one down and then just use
Shut
one?
this one. What of now? Can you hear me? This one.
Okay, it's better now. It's clearer now. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you. The challenge
right.
is that we have echo, and this is most likely as a result of trying to connect with multiple sources. So if you can just shut down or mute the other source and then focus on the one that you're using. Thank you.
Okay. Is it clear now? Is it
Yes,
better?
it's clear. Yes, it's better now. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hadiza Aminu from Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency. I'm going to make a presentation on NISA's efforts towards flood mitigation. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the presentation outline. So the summary of this outline is I'm just going to explain where we are coming from, where we are right now, and what we are expecting. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, about our agency. This showing about our mandate and some functions of our agency. So the core mandate of my agency is to provide the services required for the assessment of the nation's surface and groundwater resources in terms of quantity, quality, distribution, and availability in time and space for efficient and sustainable management of water resources. So some of the functions of my agency includes to operate and maintain hydrological stations nationwide. The agency also issues flood and drought forecast. We also do groundwater exploration, amongst others. Next slide, please. So this is a map showing the drainage basins of Nigeria and the 8 hydrological areas that we work on. Whatever work we do in this agency, we divided the country into 8 hydrological areas for easy assessment and evaluation of the nation's vast water resources. Next slide, please. So these are the types of data that we use in the agency. We have surface water data and groundwater data. For surface water, basically what we do, we collect stage, discharge, sediment transport, surface water quality. And for groundwater, we use water level, we collect water level fluctuations, aquifer parameters, geophysical parameters, and groundwater quality. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. All right. This is the map of Nigeria showing the geographical spread of our hydrometric river gauging stations. We have 273 river gauging stations within the country, and though is short of the WMO required standard, which is 482. Next slide, please. We also have, please, next slide. Okay. We have 33 telemetry data collection platforms across Nigeria. Next slide, please. So these are also DCP stations across West Africa and Nigeria. We have 65 DCP stations for West Africa and 18 for Nigeria. But we have collaboration with Niger Basin Development Authority. So we are like custodians of the data. We use the data for flood forecasting and monitoring. So it's really key to us. Next slide, please. So these are the activities of the agency in relation to flood management in Nigeria. Some of the things we do annual flood outlook. A whole lot of them, you will see them as we go on. So, but one of the main things we do is we do flood forecast and monitoring. We also do drought forecasting and monitoring. So for this flood forecasting, the main aim of our flood forecast, or AFO as we call it, is to present probable flood scenarios in a given year and to sensitize Nigerians on flood management towards disaster reduction for sustainable socioeconomic development. We use two main models for producing this flood forecast, which is geospatial stream flow model and soil and water assessment tool. These models utilize hydrological and hydrogeological data, rainfall data, topographic data, digital elevation model, amongst others. Next slide, please. Immediately after the AFO, we go on sensitization. We embark on sensitization exercise. We go to the 8 hydrological areas to sensitize people. We also collaborate with government agencies at the national, state levels and at the local government level to sensitize them and give them warning on what is expected. The agency also collaborates with government agencies and media outfits for easy information dissemination. We also go on street shows, and when we go on sensitization to these hydrological areas, we meet the community leaders and discuss with them so that they can reach the local people. Next slide, please. NISA also, in NISA, we also have automatic weather observation stations. We have 18 of them across Nigeria. Basically, we use it for flood and drought monitoring. We also use it for monitoring the effects of climate change on water resources. Next slide, please. So other things we do on early warning, using our data that we collect for surface water activities. NISA flood early warning system is based on the regular collection of surface water data to monitor flooding events along river channels. This is an example of hydrograph that we produce from the data that we collect. This one is a 2019 hydrograph. You can see it from the hydrograph, showing the water level at some point in July, which was 4.89 meter, corresponding to discharge of 6,638 meter as at July 1st. But by November, the water level had risen to a maximum of 10.99 meter, corresponding to a discharge of 24,800 meters. So you can see the gap. We monitor this and we try to alert the government and most of the people that are involved or that need to be informed about the impending flood. Next slide, please. We have equipment too for early warning, which are installed along some river channels. The major ones we have right now are the ones at the entrance of River Niger at Birnin Kebbi, that's Jidere Body. Then we have another one at Wuropoki, the entry point of River Benue. And we have one at Lokoja, the confluence of River Niger and Benue. And there's a new one we installed recently at Makodi. But we have plans of installing more. And we've already planned for each year to install these equipments, but due to lack of funding, we are not able to meet up with what we want to do. Next slide, please. So we also have a modeling center to predict and simulate flood occurrence and to carry out other water resource investigations. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we do is to monitor transboundary flood flow into Nigeria. So this is a picture showing a typical flood scenario of what happens from Guinea to Lokoja, downstream River Niger. So this is a typical scenario. You can have a look, but in the other next slides, you will see the detailed explanation of what is on this evolution of flow. Basically, there are just two types of floods that we experience in Nigeria, the white flood and the black flood. The white flood occurs during rainy season, while the black one occurs during dry season. I think it's as a result of the sediment content of the water. That's why it's given this name. Next slide, please. So the next few slides, we can just scroll through because it's showing the hydrographs, comparative hydrographs of certain years. You can have a look and see what it looks like. The baseline data or reference point that we use for creating this hydrograph is the flood of 2012-2013. Can you in few slides on the hydrographs? But it's from Niamey to Jiterebode, then Lokoja, Benue, Makurdi. It's showing the flow pattern, and it's explained in detail. You can check later, please, due to lack of time. But just have it at the back of your mind that the threshold we are using is 2012, 2019, 2013. Yeah, 2012, 2013. Also, NISA collaborates with other agencies at the national level, at the regional level, and there are some form of interventions too. At the national level, we collaborate with NEMA, NASRDA, and OSGOF, and other MDAs, which I've not mentioned here. But at the River Basin Development Authorities, and at the regional level, the other the others that we collaborate with include the Niger Basin Authority, as I mentioned earlier, then the Lake Chad Basin Commission. The interventions we have NEMA, Trimin, FANFA. Most of these interventions, the basic thing they do is they help us upgrade our hydrological stations or provide new ones to add to what we have, which improves our forecast and other activities that we do. There are also challenges that we face, like inadequate training and manpower development, especially dealing with space-based applications or technology, inadequate funding, and lack of synergy generally. So these are the things that the challenges that we face. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think I gave an updated version of this, which has not been displayed. There are just recommendations on the updated version I have here with me, which I've also submitted but is not displayed. But all I'm trying to say is there is need for more synergy and collaboration with space-based institutions and use of space technology to help provide the following: to compare and check the performance of our models and validate our predictions. Then capacity building on satellite-based applications. And we need continuous stakeholder engagement and networking with UN SPIDER and other partners. So how to reach us? The agency has a website and social media platforms through which information can be shared with general public and other stakeholders. You can look at the page and take a web address. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you
This is
very
all I
much.
have.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Adiza. This is very informative, and apology for not updating your slides. So due to want
Okay.
of time, we will go quickly back to the presentation from NIMET. If we can have the NIMET presentation on the screen, please. So the presentation will be delivered by Mr. James Ijampe with the title, The Role of NIMET in Disaster Risk Management. James, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, participants. Let me stand on existing protocol and apologize for coming a bit late due to some technical hitches on my side. Now, I'm presenting on behalf of the NIMET team. This presentation was supposed to be done by the Director Applied Med Services, Engineer Miladi, but due to some engagement, he said he will be joining later. Next slide, please. Hello, next slide. Fine. So we'll start by looking at NIMET at a glance. Next slide. Now, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency has a vision to provide effective weather and climate services for safety and sustainable national economic development. And our mission is to observe the Nigerian weather and climate and provide meteorological, hydrological, and oceanographic services in support of national needs and international obligation. Next slide. Our core mandate, just to reiterate, is observing, analyzing, timely and accurate reporting of weather and climate information for socio-economic development and safety of lives and property. Next slide. NIMET is an agency of government. Currently, we are being supervised by the Ministry of Aviation, and it's established by an act, 2003. And we've talked about our core activities. Next slide. We do ground-based observation, upper air observation, and we also use some satellite products. Observation in Nigeria started in 1887, evidence here in Akasa, Bayelsa State. So we've been taking weather, we've been observing weather parameters in Nigeria from 1887. That is before Nigeria came into existence by the colonial masters, and we graduate those data are available. We got this from the UK Museum, and we have been archiving all those data from then. Next slide. Now, NIMET has gotten some certification. We've got since 2015, we got the IOS 901 certification on aeronautic meteorological delivery. And currently we have the ISO 29990 of 2010 in August 2019 for the Regional Training Center. And we have remodeling of and fabrication or a laboratory certificate 17005. So most of the work we do in NIMET we have certification, ISO certification, and that monitors our activities so that we meet up to standards. Next slide. Now, we also use some satellite-based information, some of which include the Meteosats. We have the receiving ground station in most of our aerodrome. We get information from UMESAT, talking about, and a couple of other weather-related satellite information. We get them through the ground stations we have located in Nigeria. We get this information, and some of them through the net. Next slide. Now, key statistics of NIMET. We currently have a staff strength of about 1,700 staff, 54% of which are metrologists, 13% engineers, and 32 supporting staffs that talks about accounting and the rest. We have 6 zonal offices, 5 independent forecast offices, 36 state offices. We currently have 55 synoptic weather stations. We have 8 marine stations. We have a regional training center in Lagos. We have a national, that is a WMO regional center at Lagos. We have a national training institute, meteorological training institute located in Katsina. And currently we have over 200 observing stations in addition to 163 automatic weather stations and 6 Doppler weather radar. Next slide. This is just the distribution of our station in maps and a sample of our marine stations in the coast of the country. Next slide. This is our radar observation. The Doppler weather radar set is an S-band Doppler weather radar located in 6 locations in Nigeria, namely Abuja, Kano, Lagos, Maiduguri, Port Harcourt, and Yola. And they are currently undergoing upgrades in different locations. Next slide. Our marine observation, these are a sample of our marine platforms. They are located, we have 8 of them in Nigeria along the coastline of the country. Next slide. This is just talking about the coastline from Lagos to the Akwa Ibom axis. We have these stations, and we also have a marine weather buoys. Next slide. We do daily weather forecasts in Nigeria. We have a studio where we provide our daily weather forecasts, and we also provide for our sister countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone. We give them technical support, and we issue out forecasts in addition to the daily forecast we give to Nigerians. Next slide. Now, the agency also provide a range of climate services and products that are designed for adaptation and mitigation of climate change and variability in Nigeria. Some of them include the seasonal climate prediction. This is an annual document released every year that gives an outlook of the season. And it's normally done. This year, for 2021, it was released on the 2nd of February. We also have the monthly drought and flood monitoring bulletin. And this bulletin, we use the standardized precipitation index model to now look at the wetness and dryness based on rainfall. We issue out the 10 days agro-meteorological bulletin that look at the monitor weather activities and advisories for agriculture in 10 days. We have the annual climate review, where we review each year annually the climate of the preceding year. We have the quarterly weather review bulletin. This bulletin comes out quarterly and we review the climate every quarter. Then we have the marine met quarterly bulletin for marine and oil and gas across the country. Next slide. Now, these are samples of the product. As I said, I've just mentioned them above. Next slide, please. Just continue sample of products also. Next slide. Continues, next slide, please. Sorry for that. Now, sectors that currently benefit from NIMET's services. Number 1 is the aviation sector, where we provide the aviation en route landing and takeoff forecast, talking about the terminal aerodrome forecast and so on and so forth. We provide services for the agricultural sector, which is key to the national economy. We provide services to security, mostly for operations in the active areas in the country, particularly the Northeast, Borno and Sambisa forest. We provide services to the water resources sector, environment, land transportation, marine, oil and gas, health sector, where we produce the climate and health bulletin, And we also do monitoring of malaria and meningitis, an issue focused based on weather. Then the public weather services where we talk about the disaster risk reduction. We provide information to that sector, particularly NEMA, where annually we go and from time to time we update them with information talking about the high impact forecast we currently present in such events. Then the public weather service for Nigeria and our sister countries, Liberia and Sierra Leone. Next slide, please. This is just an analysis of the variability and changes over time. We've noticed that based on the data, I told you we have data from 1887. We've seen that there are changes of in terms of temperature and rainfall. Looking at the changes from 1911 to 2020, we broke it down into 3 decades interval, a 30 years interval. So, and looking at that, we noticed that we now have warmer hot season. March to May has had hot episodes, heat waves, and these are just proof. We've had increase in frequency and duration of dry spells. We have we have experienced late onset and early cessation of rain, leading to the shortening of length of season. We also noticed that there is a reduction in the annual rainfall amount in some areas, while in other areas it has maintained high values within short season, leading to flood. Then there's a shift in the occurrence of the little dry season, popularly known as August break, from August, and mostly now it starts occurring in July. This can be attested last year from the mid-July to almost the end of August. We had a drought in the southwest of this country that affected the agricultural sector. Next slide. Now, this is the ranking year by year, looking at the warm years. If you look at on the first chart, the one in red, you can see 2020 standardized temperature normally showed as an increase of 3.7 degrees Celsius. So it's the hottest year on record in Nigeria, followed by 2016, which is 2.8 increase in temperature, then 2017, 2.6, and you see the ranking on the right of that chart. The next chart, we're talking about the wet years. So you see 2019 is the wettest year, and the standardized anomaly shows it here clearly, followed by 2012 in terms of rainfall intensity, and so on and so forth. So the ranking is on the right of each of those charts. So we look at this this information and look at which is the hottest year and which is the wettest year. And we also have another chart that looks at the dry years also. Next slide, please.
Please, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that information. So quickly, this is looking at some episode of extreme weather events in Nigeria. You can see these are just pictorial showing some of those events. Next slide. This information has always been out, looking at the 2012 flood episode, and this the 2012 flood brought more attention to the issue of meteorology and hydrology in Nigeria. People begin to pay attention to forecasts that emanate from NIMET and NISA. Next slide. This is the 2018 episode. Next slide, please. Next, these are just pictorials. Next, let me not. Now, technical partnership, what are the opportunities? Are there, if any? Next slide. Now, NIMET have gone into a lot of collaboration, private partner engagement to see that we build capacity and we see how we can disseminate this information to the end users. So the number one there is the WMO MetaGrid project that with that project, we're able to train over 2,000 farmers, giving them farmers rain gauge for them to be able to collect rainfall and understand these changes themselves. We have a good collaboration with the 36 states of the Federation, including the FCT. We are into partnership with TAMU, the TAMU project. Through the TAMU project, we're able to establish some 30 stations across the country. And a private partnership with UBMET, and we have gotten some, we're able to set up some thunderstorm alert system and equipment based on that partnership. We partner with USAID, USAID, the British American Tobacco, WASCAL, KUKA, NISA, and we are into collaboration with 34 universities across the country. Next slide. We are big partners. We have the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, that is from the government side, the National Emergency and Management Agency, NEMA, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, IITA, that's the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, IFAD CAPS, Center for Dryland Agriculture, Institute of Agriculture, and to mention but a few. Next slide. And this is just the partnership with, this is a public-private partnership with UBMET, and we're able to install lightning and thunder detectors in the airports. That's 22 federal airports in the country. And we have, so far we've covered 8 airports. We hope our target is 22 airports, and so far we've covered 8 airports. Next slide. We offer technical services, quality management services to sister countries. This is an example of our training in Malawi after the typhoon in they had an incident, a weather incident in Malawi, and we had to go and help them technically to build up their system there. Next slide. We also have a weather app. NIMET weather app is on Google Store, and this is the training we carried out to extension officers and field workers and lead farmers on how to use the app. Next slide. This, we also train locals. We go to the field. This we've done just in the past 3 years. We've covered 663 villages across the frontline states in Nigeria, educating them on weather and climate and the effects in their day-to-day activity. Next slide. This is the same engagement with locals. Next slide. With this, I want to thank you for giving NIMET an opportunity to make a presentation here. NIMET, we have our website, www.nimet.gov.ng. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, and we are on Instagram. And as I said earlier, we all now have a weather app in the Google Store. With this, on behalf of the NIMET team, my colleague, I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, James. That was really an interesting presentation showing us the various activities of NIMET and telling us that the climate is indeed changing here in Nigeria. Our next presentation is coming from the Africa Regional Center for Space-Based Education in English Language. This will be delivered by Dr. Gani Agbaje, the Executive Director of the Center. And the title of his presentation is Multi-Scale Flood Monitoring and Assessment Services for West Africa. Dr. Agbaje, please, you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good morning. Thanks for the invitation to make presentation on behalf of the Center for Space Science and Technology Education located in Obafemi Awolowo University. We happen to be one of the consortia that is actually carrying out a project under the GMES, which is Global Monitoring of the Environment and Security in Africa, which is an initiative of the European Union and the African Union. This is meant to be a support project. The project is about flood monitoring and assessment services for West Africa. And it is focusing on riverine flood monitoring. Next slide, please. First, I will telling you about AXTI or CSST. The AXTI is an international organization, an academic institution, a government agency. As you can see from the slide, we have a lot of connection with the international organization. We are also affiliated to the to USA, but at the national level, we are a government agency under the space agency, NASRDA. Next, please. Next. The mission is to actually, in common with other regional centers, we develop through in-depth education to develop indigenous capacity in space science and technology. And to achieve that, the programs we run the PGD program, which is 9 months, the master's program, 18 months. The PhD program, we've not started that yet, but some other regional centers have already started that. Our core modules are mainly in remote sensing, GIS, satellite communication, satellite meteorology, and global climate, basic space science, and global navigation of satellite systems, and space law. We run the PGD program mainly based on the UNOSA curricula. Next slide, please. On this particular project, which is multi-scale flood monitoring and assessment services for West Africa, we are made up of 7 institutions partnering, and mainly most of them are academic institutions. We are just to carry out a research. We are not mandated institutions for flood monitoring and assessment, but we are looking at how to use space data, satellite, especially Earth observation, to support flood monitoring and assessment. These institutions are in 5 West African countries: Ghana, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. The Center for Space Science and Technology Education in Nigeria is the lead of this consortium. Next, please. Next slide. We can click the slide. The video is just to let you know our location, and at the same time, yeah, the video is not playing there. I don't know. Yep. Go ahead. That's not moving. See the video playing from my end, but if it is not playing, we can move on. If it's not going to waste our time, it's just showing you. Project is about flood monitoring and assessment, especially for those people within the riverine areas. We've been engaging them. They are part of our stakeholders in this particular program. And we've been having meetings with them, we've been inviting them, and we've been giving them information as regards how we are going to get them or alert them with regards to currents of floods in their community. We believe that with this, it will save a lot with regards to flood disaster and their economic well-being. Considering the special and the unique abilities and capabilities that women bring into any space. So far on this project, one in the area of capacity. I think we can move on to the next slide because it looks, well, we are made of, those are the geographical location of the partners on the project. Next slide, please. Next slide. Well, as I said, this just the focus or the major objective is to use Earth observation data for flood monitoring and assessment. And with that, we intend to boost the human capacity of existing mandated DMOs, disaster management organizations, with regards to utilization of Earth observation to support their activities. In that respect, we intend to establish an updatable flood event database, which we find very difficult. It's not easy to assess. In most of these organizations, we have difficulties in assessing them, but those that we have been able to assess, we've already created a database. We know about that later. And then we believe that by the time we deliver it to these DMOs, they will be able to be updating it. We already have a tablet, which we have already customized for them to be doing the updating themselves. So we've been strengthening their capabilities, their capacities, and then we also have the target groups, which are the farmers, the local residents along these floodplains. They are our targeted stakeholders. They are actually meant to be given information so that they can avoid this disaster. We need to know that for data that we are using on this project, we are asked to make it freely available, accessible, and the software used are open source softwares. These are to avoid economic consequences of not being able to have access to data and paying license every year for software. Next, please. Next. What is the methodology we're using? We gather Earth observation data, we process it to get flood forecast and flood extent mapping, damage assessment, then the products and services, which include the bulletins, advisory services, flood forecasting, and all the rest. And everything we should be able to access it over the net. Given the stakeholders or the people that are concerned, access direct from the internet. At the bottom of all this is capacity building to all the mandated DMOs. Next, please. Well, it's just the same thing I've said, the expected services and products. Next, please. These are the study locations across the 5 countries. Next. We are using, for the modeling, we're using 2 hydrological models, the HMS and the ECRAS. And these are using the rainfall runoff model that converts this precipitation excess to overland flow and channel runoffs. And also the ECRAS, which most of you are very much, most of you knows about, that models on steady state flow through the river channel. So we use these 2 models. Next, please. Next. Right. The study sites which we have defined, we try to do the study models of those sites. All these will be available free once the project is completed. Next, please. For Nigeria, we have the Ona River flood mapping. This is very located near in Ibadan, and that is where Nigeria site is actually based. Next. Next. This is just showing you inundation. Well, it isn't taken away. We overlay the building footprints, the floodplains, and trying to map out which are the buildings, which are the structures that are inundated. We did something like try to simulate all this situation in all our study areas. Next. Using satellite imagery and GIS and all the related. These are some of the layers we use for the study area in Nigeria. Next. Next, please. After the modeling, we'll be able to identify flood vulnerability hotspot. Next, please. These are some of the products which will be coming out from the project. We have the flood forecasting, which we are targeting the rural community, or which we can give them color code to alert them through radio, through jingles. Next one, we can read further on the targets. The other one, the forecast maps, which will be given, or we are targeting mainly the DMOs like NEMA, the NISA, and the NIMET. Next, please. Next, capacity building is a majorly our focus, and we have the short-term training, we have the long-term training, and then the workshops and all the rest are already being carried out. Next. We have the flood mitigation and management. We have to really assess what is the problem, what has been damaged. The insurance people will be interested in all this. This will be carried out with regards to carry out enlightenment, especially at the House and Senate committees on disaster management. Next, please. We have damage assessment. Next one. On the 6th, the capacity building from the table, you can see we carry out several capacity building. There's just 2 remaining, training on each station and that of how do we share and validating of what we have produced. These are some of the students, 6 of them have been our scholars. They are running their master's program in this area. Next, please. These are some of the our stakeholders in Nigeria, the DMOs. They are part of the training, several training that have been carried out. Next, please. The snapshot from our members' geoportal services, I just run through that. Next.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Next. That's fine. That's our project website. And we've already built a flood event database. You can log in and try to see. We will register, then be able to view. This is the database we said will be updatable, in which we will deliver to the stakeholders. They will also be able to update as we deliver the project. The project is meant to have been completed last year, but due to the pandemic, we've been given an extension by a year that will be ending by December. Next, please. This is the dashboard of the database. Next, we have the next one is the flood event register. If there is an event coming or some going on, we have already tablets which is already customized. You can snap it. You take the location itself, then you register. There's a procedure for that. We are also going to engage our DMOs. We are going to train them on how to use it. It's already sent across the 5 countries. Next, please. These are geospatial database and catalog. We use various database technologies, and it's cloud-based. Next, please. The geospatial data catalog for all the participating countries already uploaded. You can check out the link there, but we are still improving on it and trying to validate. Next, please. The same thing, the catalog, the way it is organized, you can do some analysis on the fly there. So if this is given power to the people, they'll be able to access it, they'll be able to play around with it and try to do some analysis. Next, please. Well, in summary, the project is aimed to enhance the efficiency of flood monitoring, assessment, and management in West Africa by providing Earth observation-based services on real-time basis to disaster management organizations and boosting their human capacity to adapt to these services. Next, please. Next. Finally, the project belongs to all of us. We need your input. Actually, we are all academic institutions. We are researchers. When we finish the project, we are delivering it to the DMOs to support the use of Earth observation in disaster monitoring. So we're collaborating with relevant stakeholders to get buy-in, ownership, and domestication are key. So we're ready here to listen. As we move on, we engage the relevant stakeholders, ensure that we validate whatever we have been able to come up with, and we deliver to the DMOs. Next. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very, very much. Your presentation is highly appreciated. This is one of the goals of the UN SPIDER to promote the use of space-based technology for disaster management. And that is precisely what this project is all about. So thank you very much. We'll be moving to the next presentation. This is a joint presentation by NEMA, NASRDA, and UN SPIDER on improvement to flood early warning system. This will be presented by Joan Carlos. John, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Godstein. It gives me a great pleasure to make this presentation on behalf of several partners. What we're aiming for in this pilot project is to strengthen flood early warning systems, particularly incorporating the notion of impact-based forecasts. Can I ask for the next slide, please? As I say, in recent years, the early warning community has stressed that early warning systems should also begin to incorporate impact-based forecasts. And some of you may have already heard of this term. This pilot project is geared to be carried out in Nigeria, Ghana, Guatemala, and Pakistan. And it will make use of the products developed under the Global Flood Awareness System, GLOFAS, of the Copernicus product. It will benefit from flood modeling carried out by NISA. And of course, to be able to do this impact-based forecast, one needs to be able to tap into the historic data on impacts on floods that is managed by NEMA. The next slide, please. So one slide more, please. GLOFAS has been developed by the Copernicus Emergency Management Service. It's a global product that is providing a forecast on potential floods, particularly in very large basins, 3 or 4 days in advance. And what it does, it also tries to forecast the level of floods in, let's say, 3 categories or levels. As you can see, there are some pixels there with the yellow color. In those segments of the Niger River, for example, you could have floods that are similar to those that have a period of return of 2 to 5 years. In those cases where you see orange or red pixels, the period of return would be more like 5 to 20 years. And in some cases, extreme cases, they would also forecast levels of floods that may have periods of return of even more than 20 years. Here's what you would have seen at the screen of GLOFAS for 13 October. The next slide, please.
I can see that some people are not seeing the slides. I'm briefly changing to a different way to present them. 1 second.
Okay, thanks. So could you pass on to the next slide, please? So here you see as the floods were progressing from Niger, you can see that a lot more pixels are now turning into orange, particularly in the northeastern part of Nigeria. This would have been the view for 20 October. The next slide, please. And as the floods worsen, you can start even seeing some segments that were already in pink color, depicting that floods would be really very large, with periods of return of more than 20 years. The next slide, please. So, and as time progresses, then the level would go down, as you could expect. The next slide, please. Little by little, this is by 1 December, the flood levels would be decreasing. The next slide, please. And eventually, they would decrease to levels maybe equivalent to those that have periods of return of 2 to 5 years. So the idea is to make use of these forecasts, which are generated by GLOFAS 3 or 4 days in advance, to be able to develop these impact-based forecasts. The next slide, please. The idea is then that using these forecasts from GLOFAS, we would carry out hydrological modeling to see which areas, which geographic areas would be flooded according to those levels. This could be done by NISA or with a similar software as the one mentioned by CSST. Next slide, please. And then, as I mentioned, the idea is to use the database on historic impacts of floods by NEMA, so that one could start pinpointing and relating potential impacts that are related to those three levels of floods. And for this is that we need the historic database of at least 10 years or more in different regions, so that one can develop these potential scenarios of impacts, either to cities, rural areas, communities, agriculture, road infrastructure of different sectors. The next slide, please. So the next steps, of course, in this project are for NASRDA, NEMA, NISA, and our partners to establish a pilot area in the Niger or Benue rivers where we would develop the procedure. As you can see, then we would request NISA to develop maps for potential flood extent for those three different levels that are provided by GLOFAS. And then we would do an analysis to classify historic information and impacts in that region for those three categories of floods. The idea is then to develop standard operating procedures to generate these impact-based forecasts that can be introduced into the flood early warning systems. As you can imagine, there will be tabletop simulations to identify potential gaps, critical issues that need to be corrected, and then once everything is working, we would do some awareness raising efforts to present these new procedures. Next slide, please. So as you can see, we are benefiting from several international partners, including Airbus, and we hope that GLOFAS will join this effort as well. And we look forward to communications with NIMET and other government agencies and with CSST to see how we can improve on this flood early warning system in Nigeria. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. Gottstein?
Thank you very much for that presentation, which is still focusing on collaboration and partnership. So at this point, we have come to the end of the technical presentation. I know that some of you may have jotted down some questions and then some requirements for clarification. So at this point, I will hand over back to Joan to moderate this the discussion session. Joan, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Gottstein. I see that some people were not able to see the slides. It was a bit rather unfortunate. I hope that at the end you were able to see it. First, let me ask if there are any questions to the presentations made by NIMET or NISA or CSST or us at UNSPIDER. You can also use the chat if you want, or you can raise your hand, whichever you find more useful. From my side, probably one question that I would have to Dr. Hadisa. I found your presentation very interesting. One question that I would have for the colleagues in NISA, NIMET, NEMA are, how is the early warning system, the flood early warning system, how is it established in Nigeria, and to what level are, let's say, local communities part of that early warning system, and how they should respond? How is the system established? I think someone is having a telephone call, but Dr. Hadisa, would you be able to give us some comments on how is the flood early warning system established in Nigeria? To make...
So Hadiza is having some challenge, so she's going to answer through this system, please. If you can come again with the question, not clear.
Yes, the question is, how is the flood early warning system in Nigeria structured, to be able to build on the contributions from different agencies? And how does it address to ensure that people in areas that would be affected are able to be part of that flood early warning system and take evasive action in case of warnings?
I don't know if I get you clearly. You're trying to find out how do we collaborate with other agencies to get the information from this disseminated out to the communities?
Yes. How do you benefit from the information from NIMET? And who would issue the warnings, whether it would be NISA or whether it would be NEMA, for example?
Yeah. We will collect the seasonal rainfall prediction from NIMET and use it for our flood forecast with other parameters too. So, but we are the ones that issue out the warning using our surface water data and other parameters to come up with the.
Yeah, if I can add to that too, we have this the data from the weather data that we also download. With this, we come up with bulletins, monthly bulletins that are disseminated out to the communities. But the main input for our AFO comes from the NIMET forecast. When they come out with their forecast, we now incorporate this with other parameters. And then, like the hydrograph she showed, we produce that every month, at least to reach out to the communities. And then we do that through, like some of them through the dam managers or gauge readers to help talk to the downstream people. I don't know if that's okay. And at times you have the jingles and radios and all media outlets.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Adesi Adedayo from NIMET, or a comment. Please go ahead, Adesi. Adesi, are you able to make a comment? Hello?
Are you hearing me?
Yes. Is this Adesi Adedayo?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Regarding the explanation given by Ms. Aisha, after the forecast on the flood, I want to know what are the preparations given for evacuating the area or the environment where are susceptible to this situation and flood. What are the program in place for their evacuation? Just to warn them and give them data.
Unfortunately, it's hard for us to understand the question because there is some noise, I think. So it's unfortunately very difficult to hear the question. May I kindly ask if you could type your question in the chat, and then I can present it to everybody.
Hello. Can you hear me, please? Hello.
Is this Aisha Ibrahim?
Yeah, no, it's Hajia Hadiza that is talking. In regards to her question, if I heard clearly, it's not in our mandate to evacuate victims. We only give warning.
Early warning.
Yeah, we give early warning. Yeah.
Okay.
It's NEMA's mandate to do evacuation.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I see that.
Yeah, we collaborate with NEMA.
Okay, thank you. I see that Mr. Abdul Muttalib Yahaya is asking, how are we ensuring that the local population, which is most time affected by flooding events, get the early warning from NISA? how would NISA issue early warnings on any given day if there's going to be floods in particular communities?
Yes, it's from our forecast, because I mentioned earlier that immediately after the forecast, we go to the 8 hydrological areas. We talk to stakeholders and we go down to the local level to inform them. We even do street shows to people about the upcoming floods. So we go to community leaders too to talk to them, and we gather. Yeah, can you hear me? We give information to the state governors, the local government chairman. We go live.
All right. When you issue these warnings, do you also issue some information on the potential size or magnitude of the floods? Would you also convey that type of information on if it's going to be a very large flood or a moderate flood?
Yeah. Once the AFO presents the scenario, we break it down to local governments and the communities. This we hand over to the state governments, and then they eventually hand it over to the local government. We also produce this copy to NEMA, because they have their offices down to the community level. So they get there to them and then try to them with our own sensitization that we go down to the communities. We gather the school children, market women, and community leaders to actually tell them that this is what we had seen. And then the enforcing agency that looks into the evacuation and making sure things are done right are also carried along. The environment, NEMA, and the other local government personnel. Then there are also radio jingles, television talks, by the DJs and all that. So sometimes we try to break it down to local languages for them to really understand what is happening. I don't know if that explains it.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Kenneth Rumi Ayadiani for Dr. Hadissa. How adequate are your 18 weather stations for flood monitoring and climate change assessments? Knowing the full well-diverse land mass of Nigeria?
Please, can you come again?
Yes, whether the 18 weather stations that you mentioned in your presentation, are they adequate to cover all of Nigeria when it comes to warnings and flood monitoring and climate change?
No, they are not adequate. We have this, there's this problem of insufficient funding. So we are not able to cover the areas that we want to cover completely. We are just making do with what we have.
And anyway, with apart from the 18 weather stations, we have our digital, the DCPs, for which we collect water level and then upgrade the rating cost to get information for this study. These are all inputs into the models that gives us, the ideas of the potential flood. So it's not just based on the data collected from the 18 AFOs. We have other monitoring platforms, the hydrological stations that we said are about 273. Although these are also considered inadequate, and we keep trying to upgrade on that.
Okay, I think Mr. Ojo BC from NISA also wants to make a comment. Go ahead, Ojo.
Okay.
I think your microphone is muted, so.
No. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay. In effort to get the information disseminated, the agency presently have a flood app to cascade the predictions yearly to the interland. And just like the director has said, through the DG is always on air, constantly on air, to brief the masses on the forecast day by day and as needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have another comment from Ladan. Please go ahead, Ladan, from NEMA. Well, Ladan, we're not able to hear you. Can you turn on your microphone?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Ladan.
NIMATE, NASRDA have been having collaboration. NASRDA, we work on their prediction. Then NIMATE too are the one that did the forecast. So the data we receive from NASRDA and NEMA and NIMATE help us to organize our own expert meeting. So in our expert meeting, we deliberate on the disaster risk management implication of this flood on agri, water resources, health, infrastructure. So, but it's like that's a missing link, because it is NEMA, it is the mandate of NEMA that they're supposed to take this to the states and from state to the local level for sensitization. But as it is now, NISA and NIMATE also go into sensitization, which if we are going to do it, let it be a collective thing so that all of us can work together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Mr. Bitrus for Dr. Hadisa as well. These are in the chat. He's asking, which geographical areas in Nigeria constitute the hydrological areas?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, our scope covers the whole of Nigeria, and the 8 hydrological areas are divided based on drainage basins. So that is what we use for the whole nation.
Okay, thank you. I think James Hijampi from NIMATE wanted to make a comment or a question. Go ahead, James. And then we have NEMA Lagos. But go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Juan. I just want to make some clarification made by Ladan. We go to sensitize because we provide different products. We have products for marine, we have products for the agricultural sector, and we have products for disaster. For that of disaster, we work with
unfortunately, we lost you there, James.
NEMA, and we give them that responsibility. We're coming out and can you show? Hi, can you hear me?
You're sort of breaking up, James.
Okay, sorry. What I'm trying to clarify some things, if I'm laudable. We have a product for different sector. For disaster risks, we hand over to NEMA, and that is where it ends. But for other products that have to do with different sector, we engage, like for agriculture, the extension officers, and we go to the field with them to train them on the application of weather and climate for production. It's not disaster risks. And for marine sector, we go and give them information based on their sectoral needs. So Mr. Ladan should know that we are not taking over sensitizing the public on disaster from now. but we give this, we work together with NEMA, we give them these products for them to go to the field. But for other sectors like the health, we work with NCDC. So now we have different sectors and we provide sectoral needs information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, James. We had a question from NEMA Lagos, or a comment from NEMA Lagos.
Ko ta email din ne? To saya.
Do we have NEMA Lagos? I think they wanted to make a comment or a question. If not, we do see another comment from Abdul Mutalib Yahya. Says that there is a need to improve the collaboration with the local governments to ensure that people can be evacuated in time, and not just instruct them to leave the area, because most of the time they would still remain in the area after warnings until the floods catch up with them. I think this is more sort of like a cultural issue. If people do not wish to evacuate, even though they're given warnings, this is a big challenge, but it's more of a cultural nature or social nature, whether people will definitely react as expected in case of warnings. There's one additional. Yes, go ahead.
So and then zai ce maka ka je that.
Is this Simon Katu speaking? Hello? Okay, maybe I'll pass on I think Aisha Ibrahim wants to make a comment. Aisha, please go ahead.
Hello. Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Hadiza. It's pertaining this sensitization issue that was brought up with demand from NEMA and NIMET. So I think this sensitization, the more the better. The more agencies involved in sensitizing people, the better results that we can get. Since all of us, I think we can collaborate to do it, yes, but the more of us doing it, the better.
Definitely.
Yeah, since we all have the same intention, we just want to reach the communities.
Right, so there's definitely a need for a coordinated fashion, a coordinated effort there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, and just to add that we understand that NEMA has the mandate to ensure that people comply with advice and instructions given, like cleaning their drainages and all that. They are down there to make sure it is done. But like we sensitizing the people, telling them that this is forthcoming, listen to people that are there to work with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The more the merrier, and then the greater audience we can reach. So we can do that together. Thank you.
Right, okay. Mr. Roland Abba, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Juan. I just wanted to make an intervention before the workshop closes. It's about this GLOFAS project. As you know, it was presented in a WM organized hydro conference in 2018. I think it's been around since 2011 or thereabout. It's going to be a very good thing. We have similar projects such as the hydrological status outlook system, the Hydro SOS, and the integrated drought management program. But I mean, the comments coming from the various agencies, you can see that collaboration is still very key. And in discussing the GLOFAS next steps, it will be good to look at the common alerting protocol,
which brings all the agencies on the same platform, ensures that they share the same messages, and then they are reaching out to the same audience and in an orderly fashion, so that it's a joint collaboration from early warning to early action. So it's important to look at the common alerting protocol guidelines for Nigeria. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Very good. Also, there's a comment from Abdul Muttalib that indeed the social media could also help in reaching those at risk in case of floods. I would like to also bring up a little bit the issue of being able to combine information from different sources and how through such a, let's say, an integrated information system, NEMA could benefit from all of these sources of information. Here I would like to ask the colleagues at NEMA if they already have sort of an integrated information system that compiles information generated from different institutions, and that then is able to offer it to everybody to visualize that information. Maybe Ladan could give us a comment a little bit on whether NEMA already has such an information system that is able to integrate information generated by different institutions like NISA, NIMED, and others. Ladan, are you there? Or someone from NEMA? Yes, does NEMA have an integrated information system? Yeah, unfortunately we have an echo, it's hard to hear. But maybe if you could write in the chat whether it is, whether there is such an information system that compiles the information generated by different. Go ahead. Unfortunately, there's just too much noise. We can't really hear.
Hello? Hello?
NEMA Territorial Office, can you just switch off your video? Perhaps that will.
They call me now.
Bandwidth, switch off your video.
Unfortunately, we're not able to really hear the NEMA Lagos office. Maybe you could type the comment in the chat. We also see a comment from Jibril, and he's asking that why are there constantly if there are so many warnings, and also why floods take place in the same place. Why do floods occur in the same place despite all of these warnings? Any response to that?
Ladan's hand is up. Maybe he wants to provide the response.
Yes, can I speak?
Yes,
Hello?
go ahead, Ladan.
Good afternoon.
This is Ojo BC. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, hello. There seems to be some background noise, and I would suggest that just one of you speaks at a time.
Okay.
First, let me have Ladan and then Mr. Ojo.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Godwin. I'm a colleague with Ladan in the office.
Go ahead, Godwin.
All right. I want to say before now we had an integrated platform, but along the line there was a problem. But now given the new DG coming, is also trying to solve the problem now and raise the platform and make it to be functional. So it was that created a gap within that period. So, and please, can I use this opportunity to also ask doctor from NISA if there is a way she could hasten the outlook, weather outlook from NISA, so that it will be earlier, so that NEMA can begin the work planning for preparation for mitigation and effective response. Thank you.
Okay, can I?
Dr. Hadisa, I don't know if you heard the question. Dr. Hadisa or the colleagues from NISA?
Yeah, can I go on?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. This is Ojo BC. Yeah, the NISA is making effort to the forecast, the prediction will soon be out by the management of the NISA. That's on one side, and the issue of social media, as suggested by Abdul Mutalab. Yeah, it is important to let the participants understand this, that it was based on that make the agency to launch flood app, so that the information on a prediction could be cascaded to the grassroots on time. That's on that. And then lastly, on the issue of the reason why flood do occur in same place, same time every year. On that regard, it is important for a right for enforcement. I think what we need is enforcement after the forecast and sensitization. A right, the government should do enforcement from the state, local government should use the NISA prediction to carry out enforcement to reduce the damages we've been recording every year. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Ojo. We have a comment from Dr. Agbaje that the CSST presentation dealt a lot with local communities as their primary target audience. The service product 1 deals with this aim to reach local communities, and he comments that collaboration and sharing of data among MDAs are keys to achieving quick early warnings and evacuation planning. In this internet age, the solution that the CSST is driving, is given to the man in the street to access these solutions using the internet. So yeah, if the internet is accessible, then definitely I fully agree. At times I think the challenge is whether people in rural areas may have access to internet. There's a question from Adama Maibukar to Dr. Hadisa or NISA. and it's asking if it would be possible to carry out a follow-up to know if the warnings issued to stakeholders regarding impending floods is actually enforced. Mr. Ojo, perhaps you would like to see if either NISA or NEMA do a follow-up on the warnings that are issued to see if people are really responding to those warnings. I think your microphone is muted, Mr. Ojo.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I believe people are really responding to the aftermath of the sensitization, because during our sensitization tool, NEMA also go to the grassroots to meet with Interland to discuss with them. We do it in a collaboration with the NEMA, and it makes the job to be very easy. And the agency receive feedback. Maybe my director will want to also add more on that.
Right.
Yep. Okay. To add to what he has said, we have an in-house committee set up by the management to do the follow-up after the sensitization. And then we also collaborate highly with NEMA on this issue to understand if the people down there within the local community do adhere to the sensitization. There's a committee, yes, within the agency that does the follow-up. Also,
okay. Thank you very much. There's a particular question on whether there are collaborations by any of these government agencies, whether it's NISA, NASRDA, NEMA, with the Center for Disasters and Risk Management in Ahmedou Bello University, Zaria, or is there any other type of support that they could receive?
Unfortunately, no direct collaboration for now, but I think we'll try to bring that up. But we don't collaborate directly with that institute. Sorry.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I think that there needs to be, if I understand right, there needs to be definitely a sensitization of those people at risk so that they understand the warnings. And of course, one of the key issues that probably will help is if, in addition to these warnings, one could also provide information on potential impacts to the people or to communities or to particular infrastructure that is critical in communities. So I see that Beatrice wants to make also a comment. Go ahead, Beatrice.
Thank you very much, sir. I wanted to say that other than riverine flooding, which is more widespread in Nigeria, currently we are experiencing flash flooding, particularly in the urban areas. If many of us will cast back to GBA and Abeokuta in 2018, we know how devastating the impact of that flood is. So my question is to the predicting authorities, NISA, NIMET, and also NASRDA. I think we should begin to focus on the urban areas, particularly in our predictions, so that we can help the rural, the urban communities, as well. in this area. Thank you.
Right.
Hello?
Does anybody wants to reply to this question on urban areas? Maybe Aisha or Roger would like to see if they do some efforts with regard to these flash flooding in urban areas.
Yeah, can I chip in something there? I don't know.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. With regards to urban areas, the most problem, how to solve the problem is mainly through sensitization. Yeah, because in the urban areas, people build on floodplains, and once these are identified, it is important for the information to be passed around, and the planning, the town planners, not to give approval, but though some people still go ahead and build on floodplains. And if this is made known to the community development associations, they can take charge. That's one of the things we asked them during one of our sensitization program. And at the same time, dumping of refuse on river line, on the river, or even in the drains in the urban areas. So this issue is not a scientific one per se. It is mainly about sensitization, which we need to educate the people about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We see a comment from Olatunde Hakiboye from NEMA that comments that NEMA has a platform where both NISA and NIMET are always integrated to serve early warning messages to areas that were predicted to be flooded. He comments that in this year already the SCP is out and the FAO will be out very soon. Probably before everybody goes, I would like to see if we could have another group photo